Grammar Rule 14. Trust your ear on common phrases. Okay, so now we're into some new territory. Trusting your ear on common phrases. All right, the ACT's official names, if you read a bunch of ACT books, they'll call these idioms. I call them like idiot stuff. It's called an idiom. But what I want you to do is when you say it in a sentence that you can relate to, you wonder whether it sounds right. Well, for example, if I said, I'm obsessed blank that new singer, you would say, I'm obsessed with that new singer. Okay, so the proper word to use with obsessed would be with. There are a bunch of common ones, so you might want to write them down, think what goes in the blank, and then put me on pause for a minute and see if you've got them right. All right, here we go. In preparation blank the test. Either do this blank, I will be mad. Neither you blank Carson should go there. She is preoccupied blank that boy. Time blank again, I forget my homework. Okay, so put it on pause. All right, here we go. Here are the answers. In preparation for the test. Either do this or I will be mad. Neither you nor Carson should go there. She is preoccupied with that boy. Time and again, I forget my homework. So my advice to you is to read the question and think, what would I say if I was just talking to someone? What would I say? And typically that's going to lead you to the right answer, okay? Not very scientific, but it really works. Speaking of my homework, I want to mention another rule. When you have to decide to use either I or me, cover up the other person with your finger on the test. Okay, here's an example. Cassidy and blank go to the party. Cover up Cassidy. You would say, I go to the party. So it'd be Cassidy and I go to the party. Are you going to the party with Cassidy and blank? Cover up Cassidy. Are you going to the party with me? Just so you know, between, the word between always goes with the word me. It's always going to be just between you and me. And you can remember that with all those E's in between. Just go, that's Mrs. Arts telling me the answer on the test. All right, let's review a little bit. Grammar rule number 11, the Nike rule. If you're talking about how to do something, then you want to use an ly. Grammar rule number 12. When in doubt, leave the commas out. Grammar rule number 13. A colon needs a full sentence before it. Remember that stop sign? You better stop. Make sure you did the right thing. Grammar rule number 14. Turn your ear on for common phrases. For I versus me, just cover up the other person with your finger. All right, let's test yourself a little bit on that one. Are you going to the game with Phil and blank? Put your finger over Phil. Are you going to the game with me? Phil and blank go to the game. Put your finger over Phil. I go to the game. Hopefully you got both of those right, and you are just going to nail that rule on the test. See you in the next lesson. We are almost there. Now with that other rule I called bank was bank, this is like double bank. This occurs so much on the ACT that you have to learn it really well. And I smack the table because I really want to make my point. You have to know everything we've taught you before. So a lot of the first things we talked about have a play in this. So let's review a minute, because if you've forgotten what we talked about before, you will be really lost, and I don't want that to happen. No one gets lost on my watch. All right. To have a full sentence, a subject and a verb. Subject is the person doing it or the thing doing it. The verb is the action or the state of being. And remember number 2, you cannot be left on a cliff. Example, I scream. Subject is I, verb is scream. You know exactly what I'm talking about. I scream when? You got your subject and your verb, but you don't know when I scream, so I'm not going to tell you. All right. Here we go. Drum roll. Did that wake you up? 2 full sentence rule. If you have a super long sentence on the ACT that is connected by a comma, you have to do a test. You must check to see if you have a full sentence on each side of that comma. Because if you do, that comma is wrong. It's not enough glue. Now here's that lucky 3 out of 4 thing I taught you. 3 options can be used to make that work. A period, 2 sentences with a period in between, a semicolon, which we'll talk about in a minute, and a comma plus a conjunction. Now we're going to go over all that again. For now, I need you to write this on your paper. I like teaching you. You are nice. All right? Put it on pause and please take your time and make sure that the first one's in a rectangle and the next one's in a rectangle. Okay? Now, we have to perform the test. So let's look at that first rectangle. I like teaching you. Is that a full sentence? Is that a full thought? Do I have a subject and a verb? Yes. Got a full sentence on this side. I put a check mark. Let's check the other side. You are nice. Full sentence? 100%. Got our full sentence. Okay. If that test comes out positive, yes, true, then we have 3 options. Any of these will work. If you see them all together, you know any of them will work. So it's going to have to be the 4th answer, whatever that is. All right, here you go. A period. A semicolon, which is the dot with a comma underneath. A comma plus a conjunction, okay? Because you could say, when you are nice, while you are nice. We're going to go over conjunctions very extensively in just a minute. Okay, let's talk about the flip side of this coin. So if they give you a really long sentence and they use a semicolon, or they use a comma plus a conjunction, or they use a period, then they are guaranteeing to you that they have a full sentence on each side. So that alone can account for 9 raw points on this test. It can take you from a mediocre score to an amazing score, or a bad score to a good score. So lucky for you, you can learn this rule. They may ask you something like this: which of the following does not work? And if you look at the 4 answer choices and you see a period, a semicolon, and a comma plus a conjunction, then you know you have to pick the 4th option, because you can't choose between things that are all equal. Okay, so say you're at your school, you see 3 gorgeous triplet girls or 3 gorgeous triplet guys, and I tell you to pick the best looking. You can't do that. They look identical. Okay, so the same thing goes here. You can't separate those 3 things that do the same thing. Okay, here's our example. We became best friends, comma, even though we went to different schools. Okay, so A is no change, the way it's underlined. B says friends, comma, yet even. C says friends, semicolon, even. And D says friends, period, even. You don't even have to know anything but this rule to get this right, because you see a comma plus a conjunction in B. You see the semicolon in C and a period in D. So you know the answer should be A. Now, if that wasn't apparent to you, put it on pause, rewind it, and watch it again. Here is another example. Annie liked running and lacrosse, period. I loved going to the gym. The question would be, which of the following alternatives to the underlined portion would not be acceptable? Okay, we've got A, lacrosse, comma, while I like going to the gym. B, lacrosse, semicolon, I. C, lacrosse, period, I on the other hand. Or D, lacrosse, I, without any punctuation. Okay, if we look at this example, we see the comma plus while, which is a conjunction. We're going to go over that in a minute. The semicolon and the period. We know the answer has to be D. I'm sure that once you study this a little bit, you'll get it. I have yet to have a student who didn't. You won't be the first. So put in your time now. The only thing that I worry about is that you don't know what a conjunction is. So let me ease your mind. I gave you the most common ones, and you might want to stop and write them down. And, but, because, when, while, yet. So a conjunction is like a conjunction of, like a junction of a train or a railroad. It's where they come together. It's a junction. They hold 2 thoughts together. They don't really change much like transitions do. They hold things together, like while I was going there, or because I went there, and I went there, but, since, when. The most common conjunction, if you're only going to remember one, remember and. It is absolutely the most important, okay? So you'll actually see a period, a semicolon, and a comma plus and as three of the options, and then just a comma as the fourth option. You'll know you have the right answer. My point is not to confuse conjunctions with transition words like however and therefore. We talked about those earlier. Don't confuse these little words that don't do much with those powerful words, those transition words that completely change their own deal. They're so important that they start their own real sentence. So you have to use a semicolon before a transition word. It's not a tiny word that goes with a comma. It starts its own real thought. So for example, I like tutoring you, semicolon, in fact, you are nice. Or the ACT seems hard, semicolon, however, comma, it won't be if you study. Okay, so typically the ACT will not try to confuse you with this. And if this is getting a little complicated for you, please don't turn me off. Just listen. Learn the three things that are the same and look for them on the test so that you can pick the fourth one. All right? Now, are you ready to test yourself on this two full sentence rule? Here is your example. Susie liked painting and sketching, period. I loved hiking and biking. The question would say, which of the following alternatives to the underlined portion would not be acceptable? A, sketching, comma, while I like hiking and biking. B, sketching, semicolon. Okay. C, sketching, period. And then D has nothing, sketching I, which doesn't even sound right anyway. Now, the most important thing you have to do for yourself, and we're going to talk about this a lot more on the reading sessions, circle the word not. Then notice that A has a comma plus a conjunction, B has a semicolon, C has a period, so the answer has to be D. We also know that it's right because if we do our test on the first part, we do have a full sentence. We do the test on the second part, we have a full sentence. So we know that D will not work. So the answer has to be D. That is the only one that is not acceptable. Okay, remember, if you don't circle the word not, you're going to be looking for the right answer rather than the wrong answer. Everyone does that once in a while, and you don't want to do that. Okay, let's try one more two full sentence rule question. Here's your example. The stars on stage amaze the audience, semicolon. Their wonderful voices filled the arena. Okay, so we've got no change. We've got B, comma, and their wonderful voices filled the arena, comma, with, and comma, it's. Okay, put me on pause and try it. Then we'll work it through together. Hopefully you've got it. Okay, A does not work. We have two full sentences. The stars on stage amaze the audience, and their wonderful voices filled the arena. So we need something there. Okay, we have to have something there because we have two full sentences. B works great because we have our comma plus a conjunction, the conjunction and the ACT people left the word there in the second half to be the subject, okay? C does not work because we do not have a conjunction with the comma. And, quote, with wonderful voices filled the arena makes no sense as its own full sentence. D does not work. Where did the it's come from? Remember, we are talking about the stars. Haha, you can't forget the it's thing and the single plural thing. So B must be the answer. Okay, hopefully this rule has made a lot of sense to you. If it hasn't, please listen to it 2, 3, 4, 5 times until you get it right. See you for a review very shortly. Thanks.